Welcome back in, everybody. Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn. So you are a goofball, man. So during the break, he sends Tone and I can't even tell you what he sent us, but just keep it moving. Anyway, I'm expecting something about the show. Oh, here's the latest on what happened with the Eagles. All right. We'll keep it safe for work for you folks, and we'll keep it moving. Yes. Tone says you need Jesus in your life. I agree with that.
I do. Right. I have him in my life. Hey, yes. Look, I just happen to be scrolling up and down Twitter, and I see somebody retweet this, and I'm like, what? What?
It involves Ted Nugent, if you want to look it up. That's all. I'm leaving it at that. I am absolutely
Ted Nugent a little different, dude.
Yes, he is. It's a lot different. We had him on one time when I was producing Daily News Live during the Republican convention at Wells Fargo Center in 2000. This is 23 years ago. But we got him to come on the show. He was nuts. He was nuts, man. It was interesting. I'll say that. It was interesting.
Wow.
All right. So, Tone, you have the cover of Sports Illustrated. This is a very well done piece by Greg Bishop, who is a senior writer for Sports Illustrated, and did an awesome job, I thought, with this. And there's Jalen Hurts right there on the cover. Philly's new fresh prints. Very well done. I read all of it. I mentioned to you yesterday. I was kind of halfway through it when we got on the air.
Yep.
But I had an opportunity to read the rest of it, and I thought it was really good, Derek, on a lot of fronts. It sort of confirms some of the things you already knew, that like his brother calls him the robot, affectionately. Like, this dude is disciplined. Like, he literally has every hour of his day carved out. And I don't just mean practice, like, hey, we're lifting now. And I mean off season. Like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going here, and then I'm doing this, and then blah, 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 blah. Everything is laid out to a T. And he's been doing this since he was a kid. This goes way back. He actually had initial thoughts to be a baseball player back in the day. And then, kind of football he played. He played tight end, and I think he played somewhere else, and it just wasn't working out. And
at one point, didn't he play like offensive line?
Yeah. And all the while, he's listening to his dad and soaking it all in and paying attention to what's happening with the quarterbacks. And the dad didn't think he was paying any attention. He was just being a kid. He was out there doing his thing. But when he stepped in, he had it all down. Like, he had it all down, and he was ready to roll. And it was a fascinating piece. A lot of takeaways from it, Derek.
His agent even was quoted as saying, sometimes you wonder if he's 25 or 45.
Yeah.
For a young man to be that disciplined in your life, that's unheard of at 24, 25. You're still figuring out who you are. You basically, you're scrambling in life. You're either just getting out of college, trying to figure out what you want to do, or you're still trying to fine tune who you want to be. This guy knew who he was as a kid, in terms of just consistency, being meticulous in everything that he did. He's not out there. He's not the kind of guy, from what we read, who seeks attention. He doesn't care about individual accolades. He wants the team to succeed. It's always about we with this guy. It's never about me. Even when he relaxes, his structure, like the article talked about him going to Houston for family get together, a prom, and things like this. Everything he does is structured in his life. I'm not even as structured in my life now. I'm structured, but not to that degree.
He's a different universe than most of us. He really is. He just it's unbelievable. I mean, he'd be successful in anything he did with how prepared and organized he is. But part of it also is, as he's having the great year last year, and all the while, with any spare time that he has where he's not living in the film room or working out or practicing, he's getting his master's. So he graduated, this spring from Oklahoma with his master's degree. He's already got a bachelor's from Alabama.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, how many guys who are making the kind of money that he was making and about to get paid the way that he was about to get paid with this new contract Well, we take the time to go back and get their masters too. And they also talked about how when he was at Oklahoma, he could have just taken 1 or 2 classes in woodworking and just kind of slid by. He was taking like a real course load the time he was there.
The thing is, he's already got a long-term plan for his life at 24, 25. I love the excerpt in the article where it says when his agent told him, here's what the Eagles are offering, 255, 110, 179 guaranteed, 110 as soon as you sign your name on the dotted line. He approves it and goes right back to working out. He was in California when he found out.
Yeah.
He goes right back to working out, not celebrating or anything like that. He gets back in there to perfect his skill. Dude, you don't hear that 24, 25
No,
years.
I mean, look, Derek, somebody says to you, here's $250 million. I'm probably going to go grab some lunch and kick back for a minute.
I'm calling everybody. I'm close to. I'm going to have a little mini celebration wherever I am.
Yeah.
This dude goes back to the grind. Okay, thanks. Get it done. Boom. He's back to the grind. It's nonstop with him. There's always room. He's always seeking to be better. That can be good and bad. Sometimes you push yourself to a point where you unravel. I don't think that's going to be him. You put so much pressure on yourself that if it doesn't come to fruition the way you want it to, it's like you just self-disintegrate. Mm-hmm. I don't see that happening for him because that's the way he's been ever since a kid. If it's something that he just took on when he got to a certain point in his life, okay, but he's been this way. This is the norm. This is not the exception to the rule with him. This is who he is. This is how he is. And everybody around him just accepts it.
Yeah.
And I think the word robot is very accurate from his brother. I wouldn't say robot. I would just say consistently regimented. That's what he is.
Regimented, structured. Yeah. Good ways to put it. Yeah. Good ways to put it. He has a game plan. Even on his off days, he has a game plan already in place. That's unbelievable. I'll tell you what I also took away. So that there's that Adam Dedeaux, I think is how you say it, or Dedereau, whatever it is. He's one of the quarterback gurus who's got he's got great clientele. I mean, he's got big time guys and he's had Drew Brees and Rodgers and like this guy's legit, right? He works with quarterbacks in Southern California, but he already had tons of guys. He had a 1-year-old child and he wasn't looking to take any more people on. He didn't have the time. Right. So Jalen Hurts reaches out to him and this guy calls him back and he's like, look, I'll talk to Jalen. I'll give him the respect of telling him I don't have the time for this. Right. And figures it's going to be a 5-minute conversation. He ends up talking to Hurts for 52 minutes.
Yeah. And that's something.
And takes him on because he's so blown away with what Hurts had to say to him.
Telling him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they're doing all these kind of unique, like he has him swinging a baseball bat. He has him throwing from these weird positions.
Weighted football,
making him uncomfortable in situations. And he said one of the interesting things that Hurts did was he said to him, like, you're giving me too much feedback, like too immediately. And he said the only other guy who ever did that was Drew Brees. He said he respected that he did that. But I thought that was interesting. Jeffrey Lurie's quoted in the thing is saying, we were obsessed with Hurts. He said, one of the things they look at is how you overcome adversity. And who better than, a guy who got benched in the championship game and the sub comes in and throws the game-winning touchdown. Yeah. They really like that component of it.
And then he goes on to Oklahoma and has even just as much success in Oklahoma. Didn't get to a national championship, but he hit the ground running and took the job there.
Yeah.
And look at the numbers he put up in his final year at Oklahoma before he became a pro. There's something to be said for consistency in one's life. And this guy, he's not the biggest quarterback out there, by NFL quarterback standards, but you will not find another quarterback that will outwork him in the classroom, on the field, in everyday life. It's just, I read the article and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking the same thing. Is he 40? Is he a 40-year-old trapped in a 25-year-old body? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. All right, so that was cool. If you get a chance to check it out, very well done. Very SI.com or Sports. If you still get the mag. And by the way, I used to love Derek. I used to get Sports Illustrated.
I did too.
Every week, man. I really used to look forward to it, man. I thoroughly enjoyed Sports Illustrated in a big way. It's a shame magazines are kind of dying here with everything digital, but the old school magazine arriving, there used to be something cool about that. But those days
what happened? What happened, Rob? How did we fall from grace with SI? I was like you. I would say there was at least a 10-year period. I had a subscription to Sports Illustrated, and even their footballs. I couldn't wait for
so good.
I couldn't wait from August through the Super Bowl. Their insight on different players and different teams and historical moments was second to none.
I agree.
And then even when football season was over, they'd have great inside stories, baseball players, basketball players, hockey players, Olympic players, equestrian, so on and so forth. I used to just love reading the articles because they would give you the collection of writers they had was incredible, and they give you insight. But then all of a sudden, I stopped getting it. I don't have time anymore.
No, you know why? I mean, all you do is go to this. That's all you have to do, and you can read everything that's right there. You're not going to subscribe or wait for it to come in the mail. It's the immediacy thing, man. It was awesome.
Like a few weeks ago, the first time I would say in at least 10 years, I bought an SI. I saw it on a supermarket stand. I bought it because Sauce Gardner was on the cover, and I wanted to read. Now you talk about a guy who's focused. If you can't get that article about Sauce Gardner,
okay,
he's on the cover of that SI. Another great, insightful story in a young man who's light years ahead of his age in terms of what he wants to accomplish, what he's done, what he plans on doing. I mean, it's like those are rarities, and it's like you don't even when you look at stories, all the stuff we have on our phones now, you still don't get that perspective.
I agree. I love the feature pieces too. Like and Dan brings up Dr. Z, Paul Zimmerman. He was awesome.
Oh, he was one of the best. No question.
Incredible football writer. I mean, a GOAT. I mean, up until a couple years ago when he passed, he had been at every Super Bowl, every single one of them. Yeah, it's amazing. All right. So a couple other things from today, aside from all the extracurriculars and all the craziness that went on. Well, let me start with this one. So Darius Slay, Derek went above and beyond when he was talking about Jalen Carter. He didn't just say, hey, I really like what the rookie's doing. No. He called a baby rhino and talked about how strong, how quick, how legit this dude is. And he said he's going to make my life way easier. He said, I'm a corner. I don't want to be back there covering forever. I can't do it. I need these guys. He said, and I trust this guy. This guy is real. You got to be feeling good about that if you're an Eagles fan.
He compared him to Ndamukong Suh, I think Haloti Ngata, guys like that. Those are lofty accolades, man, for a rookie who's only a few weeks into his NFL career. Mm-hmm. That's why I said yesterday, if everything that we're hearing is true in the limited size sample that we've had to see him playing games is true, I think this kid's going to be a viable candidate for a defensive rookie of the year. I really do. Mm-hmm. I think he has the physical attributes, the ability to shoot gaps, his burst off the snap, his ability to sustain at the line of scrimmage, to take on two offensive linemen, to allow other people behind him to do things. I can't wait to see him play in the game that counts. I just, just to watch him week in and week out once the season starts. I can't wait. I hope he stays healthy, because when you play a D-line and you got all that traffic around your ankles and knees and stuff, any and every freak thing can happen. I just hope he can avoid those issues and we can get a good sample of him from start to finish this season.
I'm really excited to watch him play. I think he's going to be just a monster. I really do. All right. So a couple other things from, and Carter was taking first team reps today, for whatever it's worth. All right. So, a couple other things. The, Justin Evans got a decent amount of work, Derek, with the ones at the with Reed Blankenship at the safety spot. It was predominantly Kayvon Wallace and Sidney Brown working with the twos. That was kind of the pecking order today. Now, it's not to say that Edmonds didn't get a couple looks with the ones too. He did, but Justin Evans is slowly, quietly sort of nudging his way into this thing, I think.
Well, like I told you yesterday, don't be surprised if Edmonds is not your starter, but that's putting a lot of faith and inexperience on the back end, two of the more prominent positions. Your front better be getting home consistently. If you're going to go with Reed Blankenship and Josh Evans on the back end. And not to say they can't do the job, but it's going to be a growing period for them in terms of communicating, in terms of knowing exactly where they're supposed to be. It'll be a trial and error, but I do think they have enough veteran presence around them to cover up some of the mistakes. If that front is getting home with frequency, whatever deficiencies they're making on the back end, you won't see them because it won't affect them, because the job will be done in the trenches. But if that front is not getting home and we have to see extended periods of them making plays or attempting to make plays, hopefully they're not exposed, because once certain things get out there, you know how other teams will pick up on that stuff in a given minute. But you got to get younger to get better. Let's face it. You got to.
Yeah.
You can't keep, they're going to have to get younger at cornerback eventually. Slay and Bradbury not going to be there forever. Who knows? This might be Slay's last year with the team. You don't know.
Yeah.
So you've got to prepare for what's to come, as the Eagles did in terms of the trench warfare. You let a TJ Edwards go. You let a Javon Hargrave go. You bring in Nolan Smith. You bring in, Jalen Carter. That's the transition every year in the National Football League. Hopefully, I don't think the product is going to be as prominent on defense as it was a year ago, but I do think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I still think they're a top 3 sack team. Maybe not number 1, but I think they're a top 3 sack team. Zaire Franklin, pretty funny line. He said, I thought referring to Kelsey drilling him, thought the OGs would look me in the eye before, but it's all good. Might get a chance to see him on Thursday night.
Oh,
okay. All right.
You know what I mean? See?
Like it, baby.
It's coming.
Yes. All right. So a couple other things regarding what's going on with the Eagles here. So Jonathan Taylor has been given permission to seek a trade, and naturally, for whatever reason, it always has to turn into would the Eagles want him, et cetera, et cetera. I love Jonathan Taylor as a player. Let me just be clear when I say this. But if you're asking me realistically, if I think the Eagles are either going to give, and we're hearing they either want a 1 or multiple 2s in some kind of package, I don't think there's any chance that the Eagles would give up those kind of resources to get him. They're not giving a 1 up. They're not giving multiple 2s up to get a running back. Derek, on top of that, he's going into the last year of his deal, and he's going to want a big deal. They don't pay the running backs that way. So it doesn't make sense on either one of those fronts for me. Again, I think he's a spectacular talent, but where do you fall on this?
I agree with you 100%. You brought in Rashad Penny. You brought in DeAndre Swift. Are you going to mess up that chemistry now? Because somebody's got to go. If you bring in a Jonathan Taylor, somebody's got to go. Now, granted, you'll get him for like a little over $4 million for this rookie year. But do you really want just to rent him for 1 year? He's still in the prime of his career. And if he turns out to be 1,000-yard rusher behind this offensive line, if you bring a Jonathan Taylor in here, that means he is your feature back.
Right.
And this team doesn't really care about having a feature back. They like running backs by committee. But if you bring him in here, he's definitely going to be your feature back. And he can catch it out of the backfield, which means whoever survives here, the Gainwells, the Boston Scotts, your touches are going to be minimized, because you got a dude that was just 2 years ago the NFL rushing champ, number 1, behind a decent offensive line in Indianapolis. Now you put him behind arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. He's going to get his touches. So somebody else's numbers are going to suffer. That's why I don't see him doing it. I don't see Howie Roseman renting him just for 1 year, especially in his prime, and just letting him walk, especially if you're going to give up a lot to get him here. I don't see it.
Right. Like, that's the thing. Somebody was making some comparison to like LeGarrette Blount, and LeGarrette Blount was a free agent, right? I mean,
right.
And he didn't cost you anything, and he wasn't expensive, and you weren't looking at, some giant long-term deal. It's not happening, man. I think Miami's a possibility. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. He ends up in Miami. I would have thought the Jets, had they not signed Dalvin Cook, but Miami would make some sense there.
Yeah, Miami's still looking for a lead back, a definitive lead back. They were in the Cook process for a while. I'm surprised I didn't hear Miami more in the Kareem Hunt sweepstakes.
Yeah, same.
But I wouldn't put it past them to be one of the few teams to even consider going after a Jonathan Taylor. Unfortunately for Jonathan, he's in the wrong era of football. It's the best era historically for players at a number of positions except the running back.
Yeah, I think running back, linebacker, there are a couple positions you don't want to be. You're not going to get paid, frankly. You're just not.
Well, linebackers get paid elsewhere.
You're an edge linebacker.
Oh, the edge back. Yeah, the edge back.
I'm saying if you're like a traditional sort of middle linebacker sort.
Well, the only one that's got decent money is Roquan Smith in Baltimore.
Yeah, there's some there, but there's not many.
You're right. The Will and the Sam are the ones that get the big money. The inside backers normally don't. I don't know. I don't know if the Colts are going to get what they're asking for. Whatever. No. Nobody's giving up a 1 for Jonathan Taylor.
No, I agree. I mean, and Dan just said as much. You're not getting a 1. I think they would take some form of like a 2 and a 4, something like that.
I don't see a team like the Eagles or Kansas City who are constantly building for the future because they're so good, giving up a 2 and 4. Those are prime picks for those teams. Andy Reid's claim to fame is finding guys 2nd, 3rd, 5th rounds who emerges Pro Bowlers for. Yeah. Sometimes those picks are more valuable to an Andy Reid than the first round pick.
Big time. Right. And here's the other thing. Like if you're the Colts, you're kind of in this like, sort of pissing match, if you will, now with Jonathan Taylor. But how are you helping out Anthony Richardson by taking away a legitimate 1,000-yard rusher? You know what I mean? Like you're doing this kid no favors whatsoever. He has very limited weapons on the outside. And now you're taking away, the guy you could make the case is the best offensive player on the squad. He's going to be gone too. It's like you setting this dude up for failure this rookie year.
And see, a confirmation is, I said, hey, you guys have interest in Jonathan Taylor? No, we don't.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense for the Eagles to bring. And I know fans are out there, hey, bring them in. It's part of what we have to deal with in this industry. But feasibly, it doesn't make sense. With the way the running back is structured, it just doesn't make sense. And he's a phenomenal back. He might go somewhere. He might get to go somewhere else and be another 1,700-yard rusher. But for what the Eagles do in this offense, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the other problem you have is people interpret things the way they want to interpret it. None of this is a reflection of Jonathan Taylor. It's not. The guy's a phenomenal player. So look, I hope it works out for him where he goes. Miami be a good spot, I think, for him if it ended up happening.
I mean, I can understand Taylor not wanting to play for that owner. I get it, especially after the comments he made this summer. I get it wholeheartedly. And I don't know if you can mend that fence. I'm sure Jonathan is more loyal to his teammates than he is to that owner.
Right.
And he may be forced to play. The fact that he's here in Philadelphia with the team, number one, is surprising in itself, but he's still on the PUP list. Number two, eventually, if he puts on a uniform in the game, he's doing it for his teammates. He's not doing it for the franchise. He's certainly not doing it for the owner. Yep. There's no question about that.
Yep.
And so he's caught between a rock and a hard place. Yep. He's either going to have to play out the season in Indianapolis, or if he sits out, he's going to lose a year of accrued service towards his benefits down the road when he retires.
Yeah, that's the one that isn't happening. There's no sitting out. He's playing. He's playing one way or the other. You know what I mean? Like there's no shot that he's sitting.
Well, unless that back issue continues to linger,
or the ankle.
Yeah. Sometimes players will extend it a little bit just to prove a point. Yeah. Hey man, I can't play. My ankles bother me. What do you mean you can't play? It looks fine on X-rays. I'm telling you, man, I can't cut. It hurts. Can't play.
Yep.
And yeah. So
the other thing is like we talked about. If the other part of it is if he does get out there and plays, if he does get out there and play, and he tweaks it or something else happens.
Yep.
There's very little chance, in my estimation, the guy's going to go out there dragging a leg around after this. He's just going to say, "I'm hurt, man. I'll see you when I'm fully healed," and that'll be it.
There you go. Yeah,
that'll be it. Yep.
Simple.
All right, let's come back and let's do the comp game. We're going to dig into the Eagles at quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, and O-line compared to the other four teams and what they are putting out there in terms of starters. All right. And we'll see who you choose. We'll do that when we come back with the NFC East A little later, we'll do more fills. We'll do our NFL segment. We have good birthdays, good movies, good all around good stuff today. That's for sure. That's Derek. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. Let's talk about Jim Murray, Principal Financial Group, because look, finances, right? Knowing who to trust, being set up later in life for retirement, or being set up for right now, or choosing the right insurance package. All of these things come into play when you're talking about your hard-earned money. And when it comes to Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, they are people that I trust. They are people that have done right by me, whether it's retirement planning for you, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business and you're trying to set up your employee benefits. These are all the resources that Jim can help you with. I've personally entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollover to Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call. 610-996-4751. 610-996-4751. Or you could email him as well at Murray, MURRAY.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.